Greetings, friends, and welcome to the woods. I've had a little bit of splashback just recently because of my comment about good and evil and the need for us to be accepting within ourselves that we make mistakes. And just because we do things that are wrong in this life or in remembered past lives doesn't mean that we're useless or that we're hopeless or that we are evil. Again, there are tiny little segments on each end of the spectrum that are wholly good and wholly evil, but for most of us, and it's part of our creativity and our free will, we're going to be doing things that others are going to object to, and because of that, at times we'll be seen as evil. That's okay. But there are some who really, really need to see the absolute good and the absolute evil in the world, and never the twain shall meet. There's no redemption there. It's just, and they have an issue with my sharing the perspective that there's some wiggle room. And I have specifically been challenged that I work with angelics, the organizational intelligentsia of our planet, and in some cases of the universe. I interact with them or at least communicate with them at times. And so, if that's the case, how could I possibly be against smiting evil? So, let me share with you a moment, just in this moment, the perspective that the angelics, at least the ones I've worked with, have on those who are deemed evil, truly evil. I don't like presenting the perspective of angelics because it's not the same as a human. They are their own independent being, and they don't have our perspective. They've never been human. So sometimes it's difficult for us to understand how they perceive. I am going to try. To their way of looking at things, those who do evil are damaged for the most part. There are those who we perceive as doing evil who are simply engaged with the idea of power, including power over others. Part of exercising that has to do with inducing fear and enforcing their will by physical control, by the means of power and physical control. They see those beings as self-limited and self-limiting. Because of their choices, they have created boundaries that they cannot cross. This allows the opportunity for those who are of the heroic archetype to contain them, to drive them back, and to counter their force with identical force, and oftentimes more powerful under certain circumstances. It's a contesting. And those who seek to push back can engage in that process. It gives an opportunity for them to do that. They do not believe that killing something, the way that we see it, just execute, end their life, is ideal. Because when you kill something, it comes back in a different form. So the person's reborn. They've done despicable things. You've killed them. Now they will be reborn, often into the family line, not necessarily. And you won't necessarily be able to identify which baby, which child is a problem. And they come back. And so all you've done is free them from the control of others who could contain their activities. However, if you contain or imprison them, then you have simply required others to take on the job of managing them, which is an unpleasant job to have for most people who aren't of a like mind to them. If you are not sadistic yourself, spending large amounts of time, I say babysitting, prison guarding someone constantly, it's unpleasant. So you've sentenced not only the prisoner to this unpleasant experience, but also the prison guard, who's blameless, one would think. So if you can't contain them, and if you can't kill them, what can you do with them? Well, to the angelic perspective, you heal them. You present them with opportunities for them to step out of the perception that they have that inducing fear and controlling others is ideal. Because for the most part, those who are very effective at evil aren't happy. They don't choose it because they're happy. They choose it because they're desperate or disillusioned or being controlled by someone else or something else, an outside energy or entity is using them. Now, when we're dealing with non-human external entities, that's a completely different ball field. And I don't want to walk onto that ball field and try to explain what's happening there because there's enough going on up here as it is. But to their way of perceiving things, imprisonment and execution are their necessary evils in some cases. It has to be done. But it's not an excellent or desirable way of dealing with those who have fallen into the trap of exploitation and harm to others. Now, their solution is to take those who still need to learn why that's not the ideal lifestyle, take those people and put them somewhere so that they could interact with each other to learn that particular uh, life lesson. It's like having a child who's not progressing very well in school and holding them back a grade and letting them repeat it and letting them have another opportunity to learn what they need to learn so that they can then move on. And in this case, having a group of children who have that issue and then putting them in their own school and they can work with each other and then occasionally plucking the ones that appear to have learned what they need to learn and then moving them onward and letting the other ones kind of pressure cook each other so that eventually they'll find their way out of the trap that they've fallen into. That's their way of doing things. How practical it is on this planet at this time, not very. So the means of elimination and imprisonment, that's going to continue forward. But I wanted to present another view to you, the view of those who more or less oversee the planet. They have a different means, and they don't see death as permanent. So they see torturing someone as far um, more of a punishment than killing them. You kill them, it's over with quickly, and then they move forward. But if you stick them in school and make them learn their lesson, that's the real punishment. And you make them learn their lesson with others of their kind. Yeah, it's a punishment, but it's also it's a necessary way of getting them where they need to be. So, sorry for the interruption. There's other things we could be talking about, but apparently I had to address that. There you go. And welcome to the woods.